and pushes back into the southwest. So it's very changeable, no few hours quite the same, and then this rain pushing its way further north into parts of Wales and the Midlands by the first thing on Saturday morning. Not quite so warm as it has been on recent nights, down into single figures across parts of northern and eastern Scotland. Elsewhere, though, we are staying above 10 degrees. And then through Saturday, we see these outbreaks of rain pushing their way northwards. Best of the weather for Saturday, probably across the far north of Scotland, with the sunshine lasting for longest. So it's a very changeable picture with further spells of rain or showers interspersed with some brighter interludes from many places and staying very mild.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case.
Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dewbs and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dewbs and Kerr. In Uxbridge and South Ruislip. Why? Well, of course, that is the seat of none other than Boris Johnson. So tonight I've come to speak to the good people here to find out whether or not Boris is indeed a good MP. What do they feel about him standing down? And also tonight, politics more generally. What is the mood of the nation? Also, NHS strikes ballots again today. Should or should not people in be able to strike? And spare me a thought, actually. Prince Harry, he has revealed that he is publishing his autobiography after all. Will you buy it? Do you care? Should he be able to do this? Is it an outrage? Tell me your thoughts and we'll have all of that to come. But first, let's bring ourselves up to speed with tonight's latest headlines.
Michelle, thank you. Good evening to you. Talks to restore devolved government in Northern Ireland are currently in stalemate tonight ahead of a legal midnight deadline to call an Assembly election. The parties met earlier but failed to elect a Speaker or First and Deputy First Ministers. Ireland's Prime Minister says there is still time to avoid a fresh election in Northern Ireland, and he urged the Democratic Unionists to enter into talks. But the DUP leader, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, says his party didn't nominate ministers because not enough progress has been made on addressing concerns around the Northern Ireland Protocol.
I do not believe that sufficient progress has been made to addressing the issues of concern to the people that we represent. We were given a mandate, a clear mandate in the Assembly elections, that we would not nominate ministers to an executive until decisive action is taken on the protocol. That remains our position, and so today we will not be supporting the nomination of ministers to the executive.
Meanwhile, the Sinn Féin Vice President has blamed the DUP for failing to form a new Stormont executive.
Jeffrey Donaldson points the finger at everyone else for the DUP's own indefensible and enduring failures. The facts are that back in May, people voted for change. They voted because they want politics to work. The electorate want grown-up politicians to take everyday challenges seriously, the things that impact on the lives of workers and families. Jeffrey Donaldson and the DUP do not take these matters seriously.
Michelle O'Neill. Meanwhile, in Russia, President Vladimir Putin has accused the West of playing a bloody and dangerous game and accused them of seeking global domination. He's been addressing his country today on TV and in person, and he called on the former Prime Minister Liz Truss. He called her, rather, crazy to discuss nuclear weapons. He also told Russians he wants to control global resources. That comes after Ukraine says its troops are holding out against repeated attacks by Putin's forces in 2 eastern towns. Overnight, Russian forces struck a main power network in central regions of Ukraine, damaging critical energy infrastructure. And GB News understands today UK authorities responded to multiple incidents of small boats in the English Channel. It's understood at least 7 vessels were launched into the water, but in poor weather conditions. And GB News has been told a Dover lifeboat was called to a buoy off the Kent coast after reports of a person sitting on top of one with a small boat with dozens of migrants in it nearby. Ramsgate and Dungeness lifeboats, as well as several Border Force vessels, have also responded to multiple incidents. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, says he has bought the social media company Twitter. The Tesla boss had a deadline of tomorrow to complete the £38 billion purchase, which he announced months ago, but then tried to get out of. Well, yesterday he posted a video of himself carrying a bathroom sink into the Twitter headquarters with the caption, "Let that sink in." In a post today, Elon Musk claimed he'd bought Twitter to help humanity. The Prime Minister won't be attending the COP27 climate summit in Egypt next month. Downing Street says Rishi Sunak will instead be focusing on delivering the autumn statement. Instead, other senior ministers, including the COP President, Alok Sharma, will be in attendance. The annual conference designed to help governments agree on steps to limit global temperature rises, with last year's event hosted by the UK in the city of Glasgow. The Conservative Party chairman says Rishi Sunak is right to give the reappointed Home Secretary a second chance. The Prime Minister is facing something of a backlash over Suella Braverman's return to her cabinet role. Miss Braverman left her job while under Liz Truss's government after she reportedly shared an official document from a personal email account. Speaking to GB News, the Tory chairman, Nadhim Zahawi, defended her reappointment, arguing she had admitted her mistake.
People deserve a second chance, and redemption is a good thing. Suella is a very talented Home Secretary. She's got a massive in-trade to deal with, not least with the small boats issue where people are being exploited, their lives being put in danger. We've seen the numbers rise this year.
A therapist has been remanded in custody after being found guilty of killing her friend and dumping her body more than 200 miles away. Gemma Mitchell allegedly hit Mi Quen Chong over the head with a weapon at her London home in June last year. 2 weeks later, the 38-year-old then drove the decapitated body in a suitcase to Devon, where it was left in dense undergrowth. The Metropolitan Police say Mitchell was in the process of altering Miss Chong's will to try to make herself the beneficiary of an estate worth over £700,000.
Mitchell's never accepted responsibility for Deborah's murder. So there are certain questions which may remain unanswered. Why she kept her body for over a fortnight, why she decapitated her, and why she deposited her remains in Salcombe. But what we do know is that it was an evil act carried out by an evil woman, and the only motive clearly was one of financial gain.
You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. You're with GB News, the People's Channel, where now it's time to head to Michelle Dewbs with a special Dewbs & Co. from Uxbridge and South Ruislip.
Thanks for that, Polly. Well, yes, as I mentioned at the start of my programme, I'm out and about. Where? Well, I am in none other than Boris Johnson's constituency. So I am, yes. What a treat for us all. Uxbridge and South Ruislip, to be precise, in case you are wondering. And yes, that is a bar behind me, but unfortunately, it's currently closed. We've got a lot to get into tonight, not just Boris Johnson, but of course, politics generally, the state of the nation. I want to talk to you about the NHS and striking, and I'll end with Prince Harry. So, keeping me company, I don't just have this delightful audience, but hello, good evening to my audience. Good evening. Good evening. See, nice and upbeat, so they are already. That's very good, seeing as they've got about an hour and 50 minutes to go so far with us. Also, keeping me company right through with you until 7 o'clock tonight. I've got my panel. Kevin Craig is the Chief Exec of PLMR Communications and a former Labour councillor, and Charlotte Pickles, who's the Director of the Reform think tank. And you know the drill, don't you, on Dewbs & Co? It's not just about us here, it's about you at home as well. I want all of your thoughts on all of those topics tonight. Tell me what is on your mind. Get in touch. Email me the usual way, gbviews@gbnews.uk is the email, or you can tweet me at gbnews. Now, it would be rude, wouldn't it, for me to start with anything else tonight other than the big man himself, of course, Boris Johnson. Why? Well, as I was mentioning at the start, I am here in his constituency. So without further ado, I want to throw it out to the delightful people, some of Uxbridge, some of Ruislip, South Ruislip. It's all going on in this room, I can tell you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like a show of hands. Who, I'll make it local to yourselves, who thinks Boris Johnson is a good local MP? Hands up if you agree with that statement. I'm trying to ascertain. I wouldn't even say that's half the room. Okay, awkward. Who thinks he is? Who thinks he is not a good local MP? Hands up. Can I start with you, sir? Can I get a microphone to this man? Because I want to know why. So I'm going to come to some of you that think he is good and some of you that think he's not. What's your name, sir? And tell me your thoughts, Boris Johnson.
My name's Bruce.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Boris Johnson, before he was elected here, he ummed and ahed about HS2. He pontificated. He thought maybe it's not going to be, you know, the figures don't add up, etc., etc. As soon as he gets elected, gives it the green light. It's a vanity project, biggest white elephant this country's ever seen, 100 billion. What a waste of money.
Right, so it's HS2 that's putting you off Boris, right?
Well, you think about the, you know, the destruction, not only in this borough, but right across the, you know, the Colne Valley.
Right, OK, thank you for your thoughts. Anyone else that doesn't rate Boris Johnson? Lady at the back. By the way, in this day and age, I realise I can get into trouble saying lady and gentleman. So if I do get it wrong, there could be an awkward moment, but it's all said with good intention. Anyway, lady at the back.
Yeah, exactly the same. HS2, none of us want it. The other thing is immigration. He's done nothing on immigration. Absolutely. So Boris is rubbish. Don't want him back.
You don't want him
Rishi,
back?
Rubbish. Don't want him either.
Oh, right. So that's a strong move. Right, let's balance it out a little bit then. Anyone into Boris? Yep. Hey, here we go. Where's the microphone lady here? Hello.
OK, I agree with you all about HS2. However, Boris is seen regularly around Uxbridge. I never, ever saw another MP do it. He's regularly at the schools. He goes to schools to give out various things, certificates and things. So, you know what? That is a local MP. He's someone who will talk to us. I met him, then I actually saw him the day after he was Prime Minister. Mm-hmm. He had his surgery in the Civic Centre the day after to find out what people needed. I agree with you. It's one point, though. You have to think about the kids. What about Hillingdon Hospital? He has managed to get the funding for the hospital to be rebuilt. It sounds to me like being narrow-minded on one point isn't any good. Right. We have to look at a wider thing.
So Boris Johnson is a yes for you. Anyone else that is a yes for Boris Johnson before we leave him alone and move on? Anyone else? There must be another Boris lover in the audience, surely. Anyone else? There is, and you just don't want to put your hand up and be on national television. I'm not daft. I know what's going on. Come on, we had a chat about being shy at the start. Anyone? Gentleman here? Boris lover?
Yeah, it's Mr. Kowalczyk.
Hello.
I'll defend him to an extent because I think he did get vaccines right.
Mm-hmm.
He's supporting Ukraine. And yes, he's affable, or was an affable chap, perhaps a good local MP, but he's totally failed on things like immigration, which the lady mentioned, and of course on other items such as Brexit, actually getting the benefit of Brexit over the years. So it's a curate's egg, I suppose. He's done some good things.
Defender.
But, yeah.
Yeah, part defender. Right. Anyone else got anything that they're desperate to tell me about Boris before I bring it to my panel? Anybody? Yes, chap here.
Yeah, I don't know how many people will agree with me, but to me he's been an absolute national disgrace. And some of the issues the gentleman mentioned here about net zero, Ukraine, they're not especially local issues. But he just has come across as a liar. He hasn't supported the British people in the way he's taking the country forward, and has been mentioned a couple of times, the immigration, the net zero and the transgender lack of activity is just, it's appalling. And he needed to go.
So you raise a good point, you say needed to go. Before I just move on to bring in Kevin and Charlotte, a quick show of hands. Obviously, Boris withdrew himself from being Prime Minister for a second time. Does everyone in this room think he was right to have withdrawn himself? So, i.e. not put himself forward? Does everyone think that was the right thing? No. Oh, so you think he should have put himself forward again? But I thought you didn't like him 2 minutes ago, Alfie. I'm confused, hang on. Oh, right. Right, so are you keeping up at home, everyone? So, we're not massively into him, I don't think, the audience, as a local MP, but there is quite a number of people, I have to say, there's disagreement as well, that think perhaps he should have moved forward and put his hat in the ring as being Prime Minister. Kevin, where do you stand on some of this?
Well, I think we're lucky, Michelle, that Boris hasn't put himself forward. I think he was a disastrous Prime Minister. On the vaccines, without a whole show on it, it wasn't actually his triumph on vaccines. We could have done what we did with the vaccine rollout programme without Brexit. The man wasn't trusted. It's not me saying this is a...
He was a pioneer with the vaccines.
On,
he was very quick.
Hang on. Yeah, that's a whole discussion. I don't believe it was down purely to Brexit. We did that so quickly. But Boris, it was his own Tory MPs. They had enough of him. He had 57 ministerial resignations. Nobody trusted him. He'd probably be quite an enjoyable guy to come in here tonight for everyone to have a drink with. But as a Prime Minister, his own party would have been impossible to govern. And I think the British people have dodged a bullet that he hasn't come back again. And they won't be totally popular in here tonight, but I'm really relieved that he didn't do it.
Oh, relief. There you go. Charlotte?
I think you're being a bit harsh on the vaccine because whoever is Prime Minister has to empower those who they appoint to do things, and there's no way we would have had the vaccines task force, there's no way we would have had that quite unique in the world approach to getting the vaccine had it not been for him and allowing that to happen. I don't think anyone thinks that the Prime Minister, any Prime Minister, is specifically delivering any given policy. And if you look at what he did on Ukraine, I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, we led the world in our response to Putin's activity.
But we expect Prime Minister
But I'm totally in agreement with you. I think it would have been disastrous if he had come back. We didn't elect Boris Johnson in 2019. We elected a Conservative government. We don't have a presidential model in this country. And I'm not saying that had it not been Boris, there wouldn't have been a different outcome. But we didn't vote for Boris. Well, we may all have voted for different people in this room, but, you know, the country didn't vote for Boris. They voted for the Conservatives. And the Conservative Party have followed the process that is in place for electing a new leader. There was only one candidate, which is why it didn't go to the associations, the members, to be able to vote. And actually, I think that in a the moment of time we're in, where we have a phenomenal economic crisis, we have a cost of living crisis, you know, we have crises across public services, how many people can't get an NHS appointment or on a waiting list. You know, we need someone who's going to show a high level of competency and be able to bring that stability that the country needs. And I think that Rishi Sunak is a much better bet for that than Boris Johnson.
Well, you're getting... Oh, yeah.
I said to you, didn't I? I said to Michelle before we started, I said, am I going to get booing and kind of heckling from the audience?
Don't tell them what my response was.
Can I say, the problem which I do recognise for many Conservative voters and many people, and it's not my politics, but Boris loads of people did vote for Boris. Tory voters did, because they thought the guy had charisma. You know, they thought he was something different, and so that's why there's a lot of people who just feel that they've had their vote disenfranchised in the process, and that's a Conservative Party problem you've got. Because you say, with respect, hang on, let me finish. Please don't let me go there without a drink, right? Hang on. Loads of people did vote for his brand of Tory Party politics, you know, and that's why a lot of, you know, activists do feel disappointed, don't they?
We are definitely shifting towards more of a kind of personality model of politics. I think there's no denying that, and I think you could look at Corbyn, you could look at Boris. You know, I think that's probably why, although Keir Starmer is doing well in the polls now, he certainly wasn't, because actually I don't think people do look at him and think, wow, this is a really charismatic individual that I want to see leading the country. So I think you're right in the sense that that person leading a party has a big impact on people's behaviour in the voting booth. But the rules and the model we have in this country is that you don't pick an individual, you pick a party.
Yeah, and one of the things, by the way, I find fascinating at the moment is all of the opposition parties are all kind of crying and screaming about the fact that you've got Sunak and they're saying it's not democracy, but almost all of the parties have an almost identical process. So if they were in government tomorrow and they had the same thing happen, they would have the same process to follow. So all of these opposition parties that are upset about what's happened, why aren't they currently busying themselves changing their own rules so it wouldn't happen if they was in charge? Anyway, let's talk, shall we, about Suella Braverman, because we've just been talking then, a couple of people brought up immigration. I know that Labour have tabled an urgent question about whether or not she should have been allowed back in or reappointed. It was quite a shock reappointment, I have to say. A quick show of hands in the room. Suella Braverman, do you think that she is the person to fix the absolute shambles that is occurring in the Channel at the moment? I would say probably, well, actually, I'd say more than 50. I'd say you've got about 60-70% of the room actually think that Suella is the woman for the job. Do you think she is, Kevin?
No, I don't think she is. And I'll tell you, there's two things about it. I knew that wouldn't be popular, right? I'll tell you, there's two things. Number one, what is true is that people in this country, Labour and Tory voters, are and remain worried about immigration and the levels of it and what's happening, right?
Yeah.
This government hasn't fixed it. They said they would. They banged on about it. They didn't fix it. There's two issues. Her form of enjoyment, what she dreams about, which gets her excited and happy, is dreaming of filling planes to Afghanistan, right? That's wherever it was. Rwanda, right? Rwanda, right? Hang on. Right, Rwanda. Slip, right.
No one's being sent to Rwanda, either.
Right. Rwanda. Well, they're not, right? But so she was dreaming and getting excited about sending planes full of people to Rwanda. Yeah. That was a bit weird. The other thing is...
Hang on, that's not weird. That is finally getting a grip of the situation.
Well,
that's her doing a job.
Getting a grip's one thing, right? And dealing with immigration is one thing. But if you're getting enjoyment and excited about a plane full of people being packed off somewhere else, whose individual stories we don't know what they are, it's just I think that's a bit weird to get excited about that. Now, on the other thing, should she be Home Secretary when a few weeks ago she was sacked for sending highly secret emails to people she shouldn't? She was. She resigned.
She did. My audience is saying she resigned for that.
OK, yeah.
She was given a second chance.
There you go. He says she was given a second chance. Charlotte, where do you stand on it?
No, I don't think she should have been reappointed.
And two of you that don't think that.
Yeah, and I think we have seen over the last, couple of years, a real challenge around the integrity of the, of government, of the political system. There are rules. If I, in my organisation, broke, whatever the standards are that I had to comply with, I wouldn't be allowed to carry on. And Kevin's point that you have highly classified documents. I worked in government. You have highly classified documents for a reason. People go through clearance to be able to read those documents. The fact that she willfully sent those documents to someone who didn't have the clearance is actually quite a serious matter. And more than that, perhaps actually the reason that I'd maybe want to present back to the majority, as you say, of the audience who think she is the right person. What's actually been coming out since is that she wasn't really meeting with the senior officials who were responsible for the border agency and immigration policy, that actually she wasn't really on top of a lot of the brief. So by all means, have a robust, strong Home Secretary who is going to get a grip of the challenges. You know, there was a clear manifesto pledge to deal with the boats. And let's face it, none of us want to see the boats coming over and, you know, kids drowning in the sea and, you know, all of this stuff.
It's out of control. So,
Exactly.
Kevin, I can't move on without asking you, former Labour councillor, you are currently a Labour Party donor. What's Labour's answer to it then?
Well, Labour think a couple of things. Number one, they think that we as a country have to work more efficiently with France on the other side. Now that's unkind. Now that Michelle, I didn't deserve that. Hang on. But I'm sorry.
He's presenting you a plan. He's presenting you the answers, everyone.
Partnership with our European friends and allies is what kept this country free in the past.
Wait, hold a minute.
Hang
the
on,
Conservatives
right?
tried to do that. They gave a huge amount of money
I'm
to
afraid
France.
the Conservative Party have not been very effective doing almost anything in the last 12 years. Nothing works.
Right, carry on with your plan.
On that, and then also there's some renegotiation of some agreements we can do. One of them's called the Dublin Agreement, which will make this work better. But here's something none of us want to accept, right? Actually getting a handle on immigration and stopping it and getting it down to a level that's effective so that our public services don't crumble is really, really difficult. And successive political parties have made out you can flick a switch, and it's not that straightforward.
Right, before I move on, there's someone at the back. Someone's get a microphone over here because someone's got the answer. Apparently, let's go. Who is it? Oh, it's you again. Hello, go on.
Very easy. You send the boats back.
Hang on one sec. I've got can I have a microphone here, please. Microphone. Sir, tell me your ideas.
Sorry. Yeah, my name's Sid Hope. Wasn't it the Labour Party under Tony Blair that opened the floodgates for all these people to come in?
Yeah.
Kevin?
I think there's open acknowledgement by Tony Blair and other people in the Labour Party, including Keir Starmer, and people who try to be sensible, that there were mistakes made in the past. Absolutely.
Well, there you go. I can tell you, everybody, you've got Nigel Farage in this very room coming up in about half an hour or so. So that, I can almost guarantee, will be a topic that will be revisited. I don't know why I think that, but I think that it will. So if I didn't get to you in the audience for your comments on that one, rest assured you will get a second chance in just a few minutes. Tell me, by the way, as well, what did you hear from Kevin then? Is that the answer? Closer workings with Europe. Kevin is nodding. He thinks yes. I have to say, no offence to you, Kevin, I found that very bizarre because we've already got close relations. We send them tens of millions of pounds with that close. It doesn't do anything. And they're desperately trying to escape
One
France.
thing. Closer relations with our European friends. The last Prime Minister, the nodding Liz Truss, she asked in the first week in office, France, are they our enemy or friend? What a stupid thing for a British Prime Minister.
She was not our Prime Minister at the time she said that.
Right, but
and it's important to make that distinction.
Though? She was just in the cabinet then, right?
Wow. I agree. It's important to make that distinction.
One of our oldest allies.
I'm going to let these two discuss this during the break, but lots of strong opinions. And as I said, this is a topic that will be returned to in the 7 o'clock hour. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll have some of your feedback as well on some of this at home, and I'll be looking at the NHS and more ballots today about whether or not people in the NHS should be able to go on strike. Should they? You tell me, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christys. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for The Briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, The Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
Dewbs and Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. We are in Boris Johnson's seat. Yes, we are Uxbridge and South Ruislip. We've just been talking about Boris Johnson. If you want to know what everyone here thinks about Boris, guess what? You should have tuned in at 6 o'clock when we started. And if you're desperate to know, you can always catch up on YouTube or on our app afterwards. Many of you guys getting in touch was also just talking about Suella Braverman and whether or not she is the person to fix the migrant crisis. Mixed opinions here, it's got to be said. George has emailed in from home saying he's loving the show. He loves Suella Braverman, but he believes that she will have resigned by this time tomorrow. Apparently, he thinks the pressure will get to her. I'm not sure, actually. Does anyone else think she'll resign in this audience? No. One person, two people? If you're listening, not watching, you can't see what the audience are doing. I can tell you, only two people think that she will resign. So, George, at home, you're outverted there, my friend. Bernard, about Boris, he says, I don't think Boris ever intended to come back as the Prime Minister, Michelle. He was just trying to make everybody squirm. Yeah. Interesting. A few people are agreeing with you there, I can say, Bernard. Right, let's move on, shall we? Talk about the NHS. Hundreds of thousands of health workers are now being balloted to go on strike within the NHS. This is the Unison Union, and I'm very pleased that I managed to string that sentence together. I can tell you that obviously includes nurses, paramedics, porters and cleaners, etc. You know, I'll start with you, Kevin, on this one, because we've seen strikes now in so many different industries and all the rest of it. That person is going to be in trouble, everyone, in the break. You wait till you see what I do to them for leaving their phone on, everyone. But Kevin, back to you. So NHS workers, do you think that they should be able to go on strike?
They should be able, but strikes are a last resort. I think everyone in listening, watching here tonight will be terrified that any strikes would damage or put people's health at risk. But ultimately, they've got no other avenue left often. And I reckon most people here have got first or second-hand experience about how tough things are in the NHS. So as a last resort, yes, people should have the right, but I don't think anybody would welcome it.
No? Charlotte?
I don't think they should be going out on strike, no. I think it's dangerous. I think it will make a very poor situation in terms of people being able to access healthcare. You know, we already know we've got 7 million people on waiting lists for care. We know there are elderly people who can't get crucial operations. We know there are, you know, families who can't get a GP appointment. So if across the board health professionals go out on strike, not only does it put the, you know, immediate healthcare risk, but it's also going to make worse the fact that people are already on long waiting lists for care. But I think it's also worth understanding why it is that they are voting or will be voting to go on strike. So this is about pay. And I think if you look at particularly the lower paid end of the health service, because let's remember, for a doctor in a hospital, a consultant, the average pay for them is well over £100,000 a year. So I don't have that much sympathy for them wanting, you know, inflation level pay increases. But for something like a hospital porter, you know, the lower paid nurses, you know, even junior doctors, actually, the starting salary for junior doctors is pretty low. And, you know, they are struggling. But also so is the rest of the country who are in those low-paid jobs, and they don't have the option to go out and strike. You know, cleaners, I imagine, in this bar aren't going out on strike because, but I doubt they're getting inflation or above inflation. They might be if they was in a union. They may well be, but the point is they don't have that choice. And you know, nurses, the settlement for health professionals in general, which is recommended by an independent pay board, is just below 5%, which is very slightly below what the average pay increase is for the private sector. What the nursing body has actually asked for is 5% above inflation. And you know who pays that? Taxpayers. So where does that money come from to have really high pay increases? It's not there. If you go for really high pay increases, you have to take that money out of other parts of the health budget. So yes, I want to see low-paid health workers paid more. Actually, for the lowest paid nurses, they're getting almost 10% pay bump, so that's pretty good. But you know what? For very well-paid GPs, very well-paid consultants in hospitals, no, I don't think they should be going out on strike. I don't think they should be getting more money.
Let me ask the audience here in terms of strikes. Already, look, we've got someone with their hands up. You don't even know the question. You're like, yeah, that is the kind of keenness that I like. Go on, what's your name and what have you got to say?
Hi, Luke. I think they shouldn't go on strike because basically, train drivers go on strike. Fine, not an essential industry. You can still drive to work. You can cycle to work. But nurses, if you get in a car accident, who's going to save you? It's going to be a doctor or a nurse. But there is a reason why train drivers earn so much. It's because they can go on strike. So there has to be a solution somewhere.
Right, solution somewhere. Thank you for that. I appreciate your keenness, by the way. We like it. Enthusiasm. There's a chap there waving what looks like a tax bill or something to get my attention. Microphone. Oh, hello.
Hi, I'm Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Well, just saying about trying to find the money. How many agency nurses we got out there and we're paying 7.5 times what they actually receive. So why not just sack all the agency staff, then start your own agency, employ them again, but don't charge, make it an NHS agency.
You've lost me, Steve. So
right,
we're going to...
NHS starts an agency.
Yeah.
And they just do it. Each trust starts an agency.
Yeah.
You need 4 people.
Yeah.
Right, a room, a toilet, and 4 computers.
Yeah.
Right, so that's your agency.
Right.
They don't have to charge 750% on top of the wage.
Yeah, so you make a very good point there. So I don't know the amount of times the wages are, but I think you make a very good point in terms of it's hugely inflated prices for local doctors, nurses.
That could go to the nurses.
Yeah.
Bring that money in, and we can pay the nurses what they want and what they deserve.
Yeah, and a lot of recruitment agencies, by the way, are making an awful lot of money on a lot of these commissions.
That's the money to cut out.
Anyone else?
To the nurses.
I'm keen to speak to as well someone a new face. We found one. Hello. I know he has. Yeah, you tell him. Go on.
John, minimum service levels across the board, every single strike. Europe do it. Why don't we? It shouldn't be all out. Don't agree with it, but we all stood up 2 years ago, and we were devastated as a country. Without them, why? And I've worked at school side.
You're talking about when we used to clap and stuff.
Yeah, but also at school side. Why does it have to be a percentage across the board? I'm an accountant. You've got a pot of money, divide it differently. Give the people at the bottom that have been disadvantaged for 25 years, give the people at the bottom a proper pay increase. And yeah, fine, exclude people on can't remember what it is, 83,283 for an MP? Anybody above that, forget it, they're rich, they're not allowed.
Really?
Anybody below that, below 30 grand, fine, look at it differently.
Right.
Why can't we cut the cake differently?
Cut the cake differently. There's some just entrepreneurial thinking going on in this room, ladies and gents, isn't there?
And just to reassure you, sir, that is what they're doing. So for nurses, they've said it's a lump sum for lower paid, and then it's 4% for the higher paid.
For a period of time, or just as a one-off?
Well, if you give a pay rise, no, it's on the salary, so it's not a bonus. It's an increase to the salary.
It's going to take 5 years to catch up.
That is what they're doing. So the equivalent for someone on the lowest bands in nursing is over 9%, whereas the higher bands it's about 4%. So yes, they're doing exactly what you've described. They're giving more to the lower paid and less to the better paid, which you're right is absolutely the right way to do it. Absolutely the right way to do it.
And I agree, minimum service levels. Forget this, everybody out, the country grinds to a standstill. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of agreed minimum service level. Don't just get everybody out. That's that's everybody.
Well, there you go. Minimum service levels. Yeah, raise the tax threshold. Yes. That's another idea. Kevin's saying yes to that. You're nodding, Kevin.
Yeah, well, I think that the broader point here is that people don't feel it's fair. You know, they think our priorities as a country are wrong. They see, despite the very eloquent answer about how pay is currently set in the NHS, we don't feel that the people who do the most important jobs get looked after well enough. So you're absolutely right. We feel there's a big disconnect. We went out there, we clapped when we were on our knees, and that sort of innovative thinking, far beyond the current pay negotiations, is what's required, so that people don't feel that they do want to strike. They want to feel listened to, and that's the problem. And they think, just as an example, like, what are we about as a society on when we're talking about tax? And there's a lady over there who made a great point about moving the tax bands. You know, as an entrepreneur, someone who's very wealthy, right, I didn't need the government to try and give me a tax break a few weeks ago. The wealthy don't need it. But where we do need it is at the lower levels. And let's remember, whatever the NHS does on salaries, with the way what happened to mortgages a few weeks back, that was a 10 grand a year pay cut for millions, right, when mortgage rates went through the roof. So no wonder the gentleman there is quite eloquent about looking at it differently.
I think there is, and I think there are several things. First of all, actually, both under the coalition government and then subsequently the Conservatives, they've done more than Labour did to pull low paid out of tax, which I'm sure, Kevin, you'd acknowledge.
I'm not going to interrupt.
It's because I'm right. So they've done more to pull. There's absolutely more that you could do, absolutely. That cut in the high rate tax was absolutely wrong. And you know what? Nearly everybody said it was. And that's not going ahead, right? So yes, of course we need to do more. The thresholds, actually, you're bang on the money, because what they've done is they've just frozen those. So actually, as inflation goes up, more and more people are being dragged into paying more tax. So absolutely, that would be a great thing to do, address that.
Then we could afford to eat and heat.
Eat and heat. That is, of course, the aim for everyone. Judy, you've been in touch at home. I find your response very admirable, actually. You say, I am a nurse with Unison and I will resign if the vote is to strike. She says, right now, we all need to be pulling together. I like that, and I'm going to go to my break with that percolating in my mind. When we come back, I'll have more of your responses. And also, I want to talk about Prince Harry. No, he hasn't gone away. He's releasing an autobiography.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel. Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today.
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
we're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
on radio,
And online.
we're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
With me, Michelle Dewberry, we are live in Boris Johnson's constituency, Uxbridge and South Ruislip. We've been getting into everything tonight. Boris himself, Suella Braverman, also the NHS as well. We were just talking about whether or not the NHS workers should be able to go on strike, and that did indeed divide opinion. My panel tonight, keeping me company, alongside this glorious audience here, is Kevin Craig, the Chief Exec of PLMR Communications and former Labour councillor you are too, and Charlotte Pickles is the Director of the Reform think tank. One of my viewers has said, Michelle, can you ask that Labour fellow if he can define what a woman is? Guess what? I would. Listen, I would, but I am conscious it is 6:45 and I'm off at 7, so have you got a short answer to that?
What's a woman?
Yeah.
Biologically born female.
Yes, that's a common sense. One of the things that I love about this, if you're listening, not watching, you won't be wondering. You'll be wondering what's going on. Kevin's face was utter. You just perplexed then, wasn't you? That's what I like, because it is quite a straightforward answer, or at least it should be, but it hasn't been, and I think that's where my audience member was coming from. One quick question, by the way, was talking about wages. Then another debate that's been erupting, shall we say, is about benefits and whether or not they should be risen with inflation or average wages. So I am very keen, before I move on to Prince Harry, just to get a sense of people in this room. Can you show me your hand as if you think that benefits should be risen with inflation? So inflation.
At the moment, yes.
There's not many people. I think. So like universal credit and things like that. So there's this whole debate about if you are working age, getting benefits, etc., should those benefits rise with inflation or average wages? So who thinks they should rise with inflation? Put your hands up. If you are listening, not watching, I can tell you that there is probably about 10 people in the room that thinks that it should be in line with inflation. What about average wages then? Who thinks they should go up aligned with average wages? Yeah, there's a lot more in the room. There's a few don't knows, I think, or two people that are shy to put their arms up or have got sweaty armpits and don't want to show me them. One of those, I don't know. What about pensions, triple lock? Who thinks that triple lock? I'm not saying, by the way, because I do know my viewers at home, you'll get in touch with me, you'll say, shut up, Michelle, pensions are not a benefit, we've worked for it. I know that, but I'm moving the question on. Pensions, there's triple lock. Should pensions rise by whatever it is that's the highest? Should the triple lock be in place and respected? Who thinks yes? Oh, I've got to say, there's a lot of hands. Who thinks no? Oh, Charlotte's straight up there with a few people in the audience as well. Interesting. Charlotte, let me come to you. Why do you think pensions shouldn't be respected with a triple lock?
So, two reasons. Firstly, because we are in a public finance crisis. There is a huge black hole, and on the whole, and I'm sure the audience may well disagree with me on this, or at least perhaps people you know, but 1 in 4 pensioners today are millionaires. And so if you actually look at who are the people
not having any of that,
I told you people wouldn't like it, but it's factually true. And if you're looking at where you can spend limited amounts of money, then I do think, of course, we need to uprate, we need to increase the value of pensions. But do I think we should do it by the triple lock? No, because it's billions and billions of pounds, and the poorest pensioners will still get the inflationary increase because they'll get it via pension credit. So it wouldn't impact the people who are pensioners who are struggling to make ends meet, because they'll be getting the increases via a different route.
Well, I've got to say, respect to Charlotte, because it does take some courage when you're in a room and everyone's just said, yes, pensions should go up pretty much. It takes a lot of courage to then say, I have a different view. No, he did. So I do respect that. Right, let's move on. I think we kind of got to the bottom of that. I think Charlotte was pretty much outverted there when it came to the triple lock on the pensions.
That is democracy, though, right? That we can say what we think.
Yes, we like respectful disagreement on Dewbs and Co. Views are welcome, whatever they are, within reason, obviously, people. Right, Prince Harry then. Should we talk about him? Someone's excited about this topic, right? Prince Harry. I contemplated whether or not to do this topic because I'm one of those people. I didn't really care less, quite frankly. But his book, it has been announced today. There's been a lot of toing and froing. Will he, won't he? Well, the answer is yeah, he will. His book comes out, and it's coming out in January. It's called Spare, and apparently it's going to be a raw, unflinching, honest look at his life, taking you right back to when he was a kid walking behind his mum's coffin. Right, I'll start with you, Kevin. Do you think that this is what Prince Harry should be doing?
I'm sad about it, right? This guy risked his life for our country. I can see there's some former servicemen and women in here tonight. He did amazing things, right? And then it all just fell to pieces. And the book is just the latest tragic episode in him and his wife trying to, supposedly they don't like invasions of privacy. And since they decided since they decided they wanted a quieter, more tranquil life, they've been on a world media tour, a book's coming out, and it's like, in this country, on balance, people love the royal family, they love the institution, and he was a person who used to be respected for risking his life in the armed forces, and this is now a tragedy, and it's sad.
Charlotte. Lots of agreement with Kevin's perspective there, Charlotte.
I mean, I couldn't disagree with anything that Kevin said. I think that's spot on. I have to say I'm in your camp, Michelle, of that I really couldn't care less what he's doing. I just, I don't want to hear any more about it. I'm not interested. No, I won't buy the book. Although, I mean, to be fair, he is giving the proceeds of the book to charity.
He's giving some of them.
Oh, is it some? Okay,
yeah,
well, which I suppose is it's one good thing. But no, I agree. I think it's very sad, and I find it really difficult to understand why you would want to write a book which you know is going to be deeply hurtful to your family. I just think it's private. Why do you need to go out to the world?
Someone shouted money.
Money, that's the short answer. It's just in case you... Oh, she's married to. He says.
He's got free will, though, hasn't he? I mean, he can make his decisions. So
he's under the thumb.
Under the thumb, crikey! My audience are not messing around. I was going to buy it, by the way. I was going to buy it, by the way, and then I found out it was 28 quid. 28 quid, and I am quite tight, so I started looking up some deals, and I found a couple. I found some half-price deals. I'll share them with you afterwards. But let me just close. Look at the time, almost time for us to finish. But anyone in the audience got strong views about this Harry situation? You've got to be respectful. That is the caveat I'll give you. Lady at the back there, new voice. We like that. Hello.
Hi, I just think that if Diana was alive today, she'd be absolutely flabbergasted that he'd gone to this level to have actually... It's doing discredit not only to the royal family, but first and foremost his brother, who is really, you know, they were such good brothers and they were tight and they were, you know, on such a good, you know, good friends as well as brothers. But now this has come about with the instigation of the book and with his wife, Harry's wife. She's just put, you know, more poison in the wound as such. So I think she's really disrupted the family and the institution that, if you're a royalist, and I am, and I love the royal family, it's just such a sad situation that the Queen had to go through all this just before she actually passed away. I just think it's really just a dishonourable thing to our Majesty, who was alive and had to go through with all that. It's terrible.
Indeed. Well, there you go. Lots of people blaming Meghan. Us women get the blame for everything.
Exactly.
I have to say, and I won't name and shame anybody, but a funny thing happened and it did make me smile. You know who you are? A man just put his hand up in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. He went to, and his wife, or whoever it is, she was having none of it. She pulled his hand right down. I'm fascinated. You know who you are. There he is. He's getting all brave now, everyone. He's like, hey, putting his hand up. But I can tell you, 2 seconds ago, his missus was having none of it. She pulled his hand straight down. That's what I say. It's always the women. Look at that. That, ladies and gentlemen, is all we've got time for. Thank you so much, Kevin Craig, Charlotte Pickles, and you guys in the audience. Thank you so much. My first time ever to South Ruislip. I'll try again. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Staying very mild indeed overnight and into Friday. Breezy, that breeze coming up from the south and southwest and bringing further spells of rain in from the west later on. Those outbreaks of rain are queuing up just to the west of the UK, a cold front approaching. Ahead of that cold front, we've got this south-southwesterly airflow, a lot of warmth being carried towards the UK from the subtropics, and a few showers around across central parts of the country initially, but they'll clear away, and then mostly dry for central and eastern parts of the country, albeit a lot of cloud around by dawn on Friday. But it does turn wet and windy in the west, and whether you've got the rain or the dry weather, it is a very mild night, 15, 16 Celsius in places by dawn. But it is a wet start in the west, especially Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Could be some tricky conditions on the roads first thing Friday. The heaviest rain moves through by the afternoon. It pushes into central and northern Scotland. Brighter skies follow for much of southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, England and Wales. Stays breezy, but again, that breeze is coming from a warm direction. So 20 Celsius there in London, I think 16 for Belfast and for central Scotland. And clear spells once the rain is out of the way as well for many into Friday evening. Clear spells don't last all that long in the south because we'll see further spells of rain move in from the south as we head into the early